It's the Scars and Spikes pre-match show. So Atlanta United takes on CF Montreal tonight in Montreal, Quebec. Sydney with you as we get you ready for 7:40 kickoff at Stade Saputo up in Montreal. Let's get right to it with your lineups. Nothing that you would expect out of the ordinary for Atlanta United. Essentially a starting 11 that they would normally put out. The first choice starting 11, of course. Pedro Amador continues to be out due to his hamstring, but let's go from back to front. Brad Guzan started in goal, left to right in the back line. Brooks Lennon back on the left, back at left back. Gregerson and Mihai, your starting center backs. Ronald Hernandez at right back. Bartel Slish, Tristan William Ba out as well. Alexei Miranchuk as well. And then Miguel Miron, Saba Lodrinitsa, and Emmanuel Latelat are your starting 11 for Atlanta United. So again, essentially first choice 11 for you for Atlanta. And yeah, looking to capture any bit of momentum that they gathered from the win over Atlas the other night. Of course, you know, the win against Atlas didn't mean anything for their Leagues Cup standings, for the Leagues Cup hopes, as that was really a dead rubber match. But a lot of encouraging things that we saw from that match for Atlanta United. And hopefully, again, there's some positive momentum that comes from that. I know we've said that after every win that Atlanta United has. I mean, as few as they've been this season. But let's hope that maybe this is the win that kind of helps them end the season on a high note. Of course, playoffs are really out of the picture at this point with 10 matches to go. So you're looking to really keep things rolling essentially from the other day and maybe catch a little momentum, because at this point, right, your pretty much your primary job is to just see the season out, just see if you can gather anything positive and keep things from spiraling further out of control. It's been tough for Atlanta United this season, as we all know. But, you know, if you can string a few wins together, who knows what that can do for your confidence. As we continue to look at the lineups here, some good news for Atlanta United, which I didn't see. Looks like Steven Elzate and Juan Beracao are available for selection for Atlanta United. So that is good to see. I'll go through the bench as well for you. Derek Williams, Nick Sesak back on the bench for Atlanta United. Luke Brennan, Jaden Hibbert, Leo Alfonso, Kima Togashi, Will Riley, and then again, Juan Beracao and Steven Elzate on the bench. So do we see Beracao making his first MLS appearance? Do you see Elzate making his first MLS appearance? Looks like they have their visas, and looks like they could possibly get a run out for Atlanta United at some point this evening. Of course, that depends on the game state. You just don't want to throw them out there in the match that really means nothing. But I wonder if we do see them at some point this evening for Atlanta United. Efrain Morales getting the start for CF Montreal, the center back pairing with Fernando Alvarez. So did want to call that out as well. Thomas Guillet is your starting keeper. Guillet, I believe, is your starting keeper for CF Montreal. He is on loan from Bologna, I believe. He's Chilean originally, but yes, on loan from Bologna. 21-year-old keeper. Came through the Universidad Católica Academy, again from Chile, made his way to Bologna, and now on loan with CF Montreal. Former Chilean youth international, spent a couple of years with them with no appearances. So Thomas Guillet is the starting keeper for CF Montreal, and Sebastian Breza is the backup keeper at this point. Jonathan Sear, while not starting, their first choice keeper not starting for CF Montreal. So maybe something to keep an eye on for Atlanta United as they face Guillet. Of course, Atlanta, that has really had no bearing on results for Atlanta United. It seems like whenever they face a first-time keeper, usually things don't end well for them. But this is going to be, it looks like, Guillet's first MLS start. He started against Puebla, I should say, the other day, gave up 2 goals. But this is his first MLS start. So again, Thomas Guillet in goal for CF Montreal. Let me know your predictions in the chat. I saw a couple of them already. Almer saying 2-0 either team, and Chris saying 3-2 Atlanta. So, Chris, very optimistic about what might happen this evening. Yeah, it's tough because these are two teams who have really, again, struggled all season long, struggled to really get any semblance of momentum. And both of them currently, as you all know, toward the bottom of the Eastern Conference standings. Atlanta, of course, 21 points through 24 matches. Montreal, 18 points through 25 matches. Just 2 points ahead of the Galaxy for really the wooden spoon. And the Galaxy, I feel like, have the better upside, of course, than Montreal and Atlanta. They have players on their injured list, namely Pooch, who are coming back and will make their way back to the lineup sooner rather than later. So, unfortunately, whoever loses this match, I feel like maybe in the front row seat, in the driver's seat, I should say, for the wooden spoon. And certainly that's not a sentence that I thought I'd be saying about Atlanta United going into the season, considering the amount of money they paid for their attack. You don't need me to go into that again. You already know the story. You already know, what Atlanta has done to boost this attack, and it just haven't worked, or it just hasn't worked, I should say. Although maybe there's some bits and pieces of much better performances that we saw. Certainly Atlas, like in League's Cup. We saw it in Orlando. You saw some good spells of play. Saba didn't score, but he had a really good movement toward net for a own goal. Latte Lot scoring as well in League's Cup. A meaningful goal, his first meaningful goal in a while. So you see the glimpses of good things. You see the glimpses of maybe this attack starting to gel a little bit. I did want to see Luke Brennan back in the starting 11. Luke has been really good for Atlanta United throughout his time with the club. Or I'm sorry, not during his time with the club, but over the past few weeks as he's continued to get more and more opportunities with the first team in the starting 11. And he's really impressed me. He really has. And I expect to see him coming out later in the match, maybe that 60, 65, 70-minute mark against Tired Legs, against CF Montreal's defense. So that's something I would expect to see. Chris saying we probably will see Berrocal come in for Gregerson around the 60 or 65th minute. You have to think that Berrocal and Mihai, that is your preferred center back pairing. That really leaves Gregerson, again, the odd man out at this point. I don't think Atlanta United have much of an incentive to keep him around, especially given his health, his injury history. Is he a player that Atlanta looks to move? Not this summer, but maybe in the fall window to get a return for him. I mean, even given his injury history, we'll have to see. But I don't think they got one bet on Cal for nothing. And I don't think Stian Gregerson at this point is a bench player. He's going to start somewhere. He's going to start with some team. And it doesn't look like it's Atlanta at this point. Of course, he's starting. He is the penciled-in starter, or he has been the penciled-in starter for this season when he's been healthy. But again, they didn't bring Berrocal in for nothing. He is on loan. So if it works out, then the club will keep him, of course, keep him in that center back pairing with Mihai, and that, again, leaves Gregerson the odd man out. If it doesn't work out, then you can just say, we don't need Berrocal anymore. He can return to his parent club, and Gregerson remains. So you're essentially showcasing Berrocal, giving him an audition with Mihai at some point in that starting center back pairing. And, hopefully we'll see him at some point later on in the match. Same with Alzate. Hopefully we see him at some point later in the match. I would imagine he's the replacement for Mouliamba at this point. So we'll see how the midfield kind of fares with Alzate in for Mouliamba. I expect we see that, like Chris was saying. Same reason with Berrocal, but with Alzate, maybe that 60, 70th minute or so. While I have you guys, as we kind of move on here for this pre-match show, go to patreon.com/Guards and Spikes. That gives you access to our Discord. All three tiers give you access: $1.17 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month. You get to hear Henry's conversation with Javier Perez, director of methodology for Atlanta United. Great conversation, great interview. That is for our Patreon backers. Again, every tier gets you access to our Discord. A lot of great things happening in our Discord, so definitely join us there. Go, of course, to patreon.com. Yeah, patreon.com/scars Scars and Spikes. Of course, go to scarsandspikes.com itself. All the first reaction after the final whistle, we'll have a recap. We'll have, you know, all the post-match coverage that you come to expect. That also has our match thread. So if you want to jump into the match thread and comment along with other fans watching the match, you certainly are more than welcome to do that. That is at scarsandspikes.com. If you're watching on YouTube, definitely like, subscribe, share our content. We'll have our 3 takeaways after the match as well. And of course, our live post-match reaction coming up tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time here on the Scars and Spikes YouTube channel. So please like, please subscribe, please share our content as much as you can. That helps us out as we look to really grow this channel, grow our following, grow our website, and all of that stuff. It's been tough sledding for Atlanta United this season, as we all know, but having a strong community of fans has been very beneficial to us. I believe, looking at YouTube, we're over, I believe, around 1,500 subscribers, and it's been amazing. Just thinking about when we first started this channel, we had a few followers here and there join us, but then it just grew and grew and grew, and now we're over 1,500 subscribers. 1,530, a little bit over 1,530 is our current count. So thanks to everyone watching, subscribing on YouTube. We really do appreciate that. A couple of other comments I want to get to as we wrap up here in a few minutes. Dan saying, I'm still not sold on Brennan. Saying his assist on Wednesday was miscontrol on his part, not intentional. I mean, Brennan is still young. He still has room to grow, but he's shown, just a willingness to take on defenders, just that fearlessness, that boldness to go through defenders. And yes, he's young. Yes, he's not perfect, but I think once he gets his decision making under control, once he gets that part of his game straightened out, I think he'll be a much better player. Those youthful moments will continue to pop up as he is 21, but for me, he's been really good. Colonel talking about Lennon and Guzan replacing them with youth players. I don't know why Guzan is getting a lot of hate. I mean, he is, of course, 41. He's getting up there in age. I think Jaden Hibbert is, yes, your keeper of the future. I would like to see him get some time, but I think, at this point, I think Guzan will be the starter the rest of the way. I mean, I kind of feel like it's his last year anyway, so I don't know. We've definitely seen Hibbert a couple of times this season, as you all know. But I think as MLS play is concerned, I think Kazan will be the keeper the rest of the way. I know it's not necessarily a popular opinion, but I think that's a decision that Ryan Hidalgo has made. And I would have to say that Brad Guzan is far from the biggest problem with his team. So, and though a lot of fans are excited to see Hibbert, excited to see what he can do with for the club, I feel like currently it is Guzan as the first choice keeper for Atlanta United. Still, I feel like he deserves a little more respect. I'm not saying people are disrespecting him, but let him retire with his head held high. I don't think that he expected this season to go the way it did, but let him retire with his head held high. Maybe you can get a little bit of something at the end of the season. Maybe you can go a little bit of a run. You're not making the playoffs, but maybe you can go a little bit of a run. And hey, you have an MLS Cup on your trophy, your prototypical trophy case. You can retire knowing that you helped the team do that in 2018. Open Cup, the same thing. You can retire knowing that you helped the team to Open Cup, its first 2 trophies in club history. So, Brad Guzan, He has gotten some hate from the fan base, but again, he's far from the only problem with this team right now. And you know, it kind of does feel like he's coming toward the end, and he deserves his flowers for everything he's done with Atlanta United. And then after this season, it certainly does appear, the Jaden Hibbert era will begin for Atlanta United unless they bring in kind of a keeper on a 1-year deal or something like that. I don't know. We'll have to see. But yeah, that's what I feel as far as Brad Guzan is concerned. I asked for predictions, and Ariel, good to see us always. Ariel said 1-3 or 3-1 Atlanta United. Kiel saying 2-2, a 2-2 draw. And then I got to the others earlier. But we'll see. We'll see. Both teams have not played well this season. Certainly, playoffs are out of the picture for either side, but we'll see what happens. We'll see if there are goals in it or if things kind of peter out at the end and we don't see really any action. But LA United versus CF Montreal coming up at 7:40 Eastern time. Yeah, scarfsandspikes.com, patreon.com/scarfsandspikes. You can follow me at SHWrites on X and Blue Sky, Soccer on Instagram and Threads. We are at Scarves, the letter N, Spikes on I lost my train of that. The Scarves, the letter N, Spikes on X, scarfsandspikes.com on Blue Sky, Scarves and Spikes on Instagram and Threads.